Tango Tango Papa 2079, November 2nd, 2021.
Have we seen the actual reality of a monstrous crime? Or merely an illusion, the product of a tortured brain?
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Tom Wilder with you, coming to you this evening from Edwardsville, Missouri. So, basically suburban St. Louis. So, I am leaving here probably around 11 p.m. And the load I have delivers to Bentonville, Arkansas, and then after that I'll go home. So I should be, I think right now I'm 363 miles from Bentonville, and then it's and then of course after it should be a drop and hook in Bentonville, and then after that I'll drive the rest of the way home. It's probably maybe about 25-30 miles from, if it's even that far, from Bentonville on home. And then I'll be home for 5 days. And I'll be going back to work on November the 9th. So the past, probably 2 weeks or so, I've been driving. I've ended up starting my day around anywhere from midnight to 2 a.m. It's late in, sometimes it's a little bit before midnight. And then doing the driving, and then getting to wherever I'm going sometime either early in the morning or later in the morning, and then sort of sleeping in the afternoon. So I got here to Edwardsville. It was around 5-something this morning, and I did the first drop and hook. I had a loaded trailer, so I went to the place, and Edwardsville, there's a bunch of there's a bunch of warehouses. They're all newer warehouses that have been built in the last several years. So it's kind of an industrial park type area primarily, and actually a rather nice area. But so did the drop and hook, and then went about half a mile up the street or so, maybe a mile at most, to this other warehouse, and dropped the empty trailer that I just picked up, and picked up the loaded trailer that I'll be taking to Bentonville. And then I came a couple of miles. There's a Flying J truck stop that's been here for quite a few years. It's right along Interstate 270, and so came here, and then that was about 7 o'clock this morning, I guess, somewhere around 7 when I got here, and Central Time. So I went inside and got something to eat, and then came back out to the truck, and I guess probably I was up for probably an hour to hour and a half, and then I just was feeling a little tired, so I went ahead and went to bed, and then woke up around 4 p.m. this afternoon, and so now I'm pretty well wide awake. So at this point, I'm gonna, I'll be up all night, and then probably flip my hours back around tomorrow. Once I'm home, then I'll go to bed sometime tomorrow evening, and then kind of get back on a normal schedule. So, in any event, the weather's turned somewhat cooler. It's, I think earlier here it was in the, kind of the maybe around 50, and then probably right now it's in the 40s, and I think it's supposed to get down into the high 30s here. And the same way, it looks like it's similar temperatures at home, and then within the next couple of days it's supposed to be, maybe get down below freezing. Now, I think right now, when I looked earlier, there was some rain going on at home, so there's probably a good chance that I'll run into some rain once I get probably maybe down around Springfield, Missouri, somewhere in that area. That's probably going to run into some rain, but it's still, at this point, it's going to be above freezing, so I don't have to worry about freezing rain. And I think tomorrow the rain's supposed to stop before the rain's supposed to continue into tomorrow, but then it's supposed to stop several hours before the temperature actually drops. But so it is that time of year, and that's not my. I don't particularly like driving in winter weather conditions. Obviously we don't have that yet, but don't like that. And as I've said many times, I don't like driving in winter, like snow conditions in mountains. Like Wyoming or wherever. Colorado being the worst, west of Denver. So really dislike that, but otherwise most places, especially like in the Northeast, with Pennsylvania, Ohio, that part of the country, Indiana, and even Missouri does a pretty good job with like salting the roads and what have you, and removing the snow. But at least in those areas, they do make an effort. But in any case, I just deal with whatever I deal with. But I really, like I say, I don't like really going to Wyoming and certainly Colorado. Like I say, Colorado being the worst. So. But I don't know. We'll sort of see what happens. Because in the past I've kind of made it. I made an attempt to with the company. Could they come up with something else? And then the guy never really did get back with me. Because I would rather, I wish they could come up with something that would kind of keep me in a certain, like let's say the eastern half of the country, and not have to deal with the western part. But, so we'll see. I'll pursue that again maybe. But, so in any event, I'm completely off of the eye drops. And I have been for some time now, and so my eyes seem to be doing great. Really haven't had any dry eye problems. That a lot of people will have dry eye problems. They'll after cataract surgery they'll say, "Well, I've got dry eye problems, and it was caused by the cataract surgery." Well, actually, they probably had dry eyes to start with, and then maybe the cataract surgery just sort of exacerbated it. I don't think I had dry eyes to start with, and I think mostly it can be controlled through diet. I think one of the important things is to eat salmon at least once a week. I think that's really a useful thing to do. And then of course the other thing to do is be on a diet that lowers keeps your inflammation at a lower level. Now, inflammation, talked about it before. Some inflammation is necessary. If you cut your finger, and the thing kind of, it turns red and sort of, you have some sort of an injury and it kind of turns red and it gets warm to the touch. That's inflammation. That's your immune system responding. Getting rid of whatever the invading element is. And so we have to have inflammation. That's really immune system, or we die. But then on the other hand, if you're eating things that confuse, you can think of it as there's certain foods that you eat that contain proteins and other elements that confuse the immune system, and in many cases causing the body to sort of attack itself. That you have too much inflammation, that creates other issues. And so dry eyes, people think, well, dry eyes are just, just using that as an example. Dry eye syndrome is just, you don't have enough tears. Well, that's actually not it. It's actually an inflammatory process that's going on, where the immune system is kind of ends up overreacting and even on the surface of the eye. And so that's just and someone that probably has dry eyes probably also has other issues that are going on as well. So, but diet is very important, and of course, I continue with basically the low carb diet. My diet now, it's coming up on 3 years. I think I did it in December of 18, early December of 18 is when I made the switch. I actually made a note of it. I could go back and look, but I think that's when it was. And so that's coming up within about a month. That's going to be coming up fairly quick. So 3 years. It's hard to believe that 3 years has gone by. And but since then, I've been on basically my diet is any kind of meat, which includes basically any kind of fish, as well as lots of salad and lots of vegetables. With there's only been a few cases where I've eaten anything that like that would be considered high carb. For example, my nephew's wedding, I ate a small piece of the wedding cake, and then mother's birthday, that's been some months back, ate a piece of her birthday cake, and no problem. And I think I've maybe once or twice I've eaten some grapes, which those are fairly high carb, but absolutely have not made a habit of it. And because but I don't know if you the way it works with me, if I can really understand something, if I can understand, and it seems especially with the food, I understand what it is and what it does and why it's not good, and to eat it, even though it, all this stuff tastes wonderful, all the carbohydrates, all the high carbohydrate stuff tastes great, but it really has detrimental effects. And so if I can, I find that if I can understand it, then it makes it a lot easier to just simply, avoid doing it. I realize that it's really the high carbohydrates are really a slow poison. People are poisoning themselves, and they think it's just normal, and so, and I see all these people walking around, and you can just look at them and tell that they've, that they're abusing carbohydrates. because it's just the body shape, and it's not necessarily that they're overweight either. A lot of them, I'd say the majority of people that are eating a high carb diet probably are overweight in some way, or you can see that the body shape's not quite right. And then, of course, I see people in restaurants all the time, and they, here they come and they sit down and they order, oh, I want orange juice, or I want this, or I want that, and they get the hash browns and the, all of the high carb stuff and the starchy stuff, and then, they're really poisoning themselves. So, and they're doing it every time every meal they do it. And then they wonder why they have an overweight problem, but they have other problems as well, and it may not necessarily, kill them, that's not necessarily, there's a good chance you can go ahead and eat your carbohydrates and live a long life, but then the problem is that, depending on your genetics, and I think also your attitude makes a big difference as well. Probably the biggest difference. Maybe the last 10 to 15 years of your life may not be very pleasant. Because you've really ended up abusing the carbohydrates. Abusing your body with all these carbohydrates, and then, you're poisoning yourself. And like I say, it's the side effects of it are, towards, they can be horrific, and a lot of times now they're happening in younger people. It's not something that just hits you late in life necessarily. A lot of times now it's happening with younger and younger people. So, but it's all about basically eating the wrong things. But you have to. I don't know. You have to at least the way I look at things, you have to question things around you and question, people. Just what people have accepted as, well, this is how we do it, this is normal. Well, question it. Whatever it is, question it. Find out for yourself. You have to be able to know these things for yourself. Don't just take things for granted. You got to know them for yourself, or at least that's the way I look at it. So, one of the things I wanted to talk about, of course I continue to just keep all of the news, and the vast majority of the headlines, I've got them all shut off, and I know there's just absolute craziness going on. Certainly it's in the media. Now I don't really see it in the real world, or at least the part of the world that I deal with. I don't see, it's pretty well the same every day in and day out. The people that I deal with in the actual real world, that seems kind of pretty normal. But if you're so most of this stuff is just the real insanities going on in the media, and so there is some real crap going on, but mostly it's an assault to the media. Now, why would why all of this all of a sudden, and it's been the past few years, why all of this big push for all the the transgender thing they've been pushing, and that just didn't happen recently. That's been going on now for several years. But that's just one of the examples. They're pull down statues, all of the stuff. Why is that happening? And the reason it's happening is because those people that thought that way got into power, for one thing. They've sort of wormed their way into power. But it's for the same reason that, and I'll go back to the abortion thing. Let's say you're a woman and you've had an abortion. You've had an abortion for whatever reason. You had the abortion, and then you realize after the fact that you're guilty. You've caused your a human being to die. You've killed your own baby. Maybe you've had twins that were aborted. You've killed your own twins. Now imagine that. It doesn't take much. You could just just kind of put yourself in that position and just imagine that. Use your imagination. Imagine the kind of guilt that entails. So once you've done something like that, you've got basically two choices. You can either face your conscience and allow your conscience to get you, and then, and God can forgive you for, anything that you've done. But you have to be willing to face your own conscience. But otherwise, if you're not, then you have to find other people that will help you, believe that right is wrong and wrong is right. And so there's this idea that, if I make everyone else remake the society so that everyone believes that right is wrong and wrong is right, then it's going to take the guilt away. Some people realize that the guilt's coming from their conscience, but then they think that their conscience is some sort of a construct from the greater society at large. Well, it's not. There are elements of it can be, but generally speaking, it's not. Your real conscience is really, it's sort of built in. It's built into our psyches as human beings. Conscience is the mechanism through which God communicates with us. God talks to us through our conscience, so-called still small voice. So you sin. In other words, you miss the mark. You sort of fail to live up to the blueprint, to God's blueprint for life. You miss the mark, you sin, and so then in order to realize that, to get rid of the guilty conscience, because it's there reminding you, hey, you're wrong, you missed the mark. In order to drive a wedge between yourself and your conscience, then you find other people that will agree with you that right is wrong and wrong is right. And so then they think they're really, these people now think that they can just reprogram society, and it's with especially concentrating on children, reprogram the society so that wrong is right and right is wrong. And it's going to take the guilt away, and they really do believe that they're programming utopia. But of course, it's hell on earth. Because it's wrong. There are absolutes. Sorry. If someone says, well, there are no absolutes, ask them if they're absolutely sure. And of course, if they say they're absolutely sure, then they're declaring an absolute. It's an immediate contradiction, and it's not just a word. It's not simply a play on words. There are absolutes. So, how do you guard yourself against this mental, this spiritual, psychological assault? How do you live in the world but not be of it? And I believe it goes back to resentment. Playing God in your own mind. Imagine yourself in you're in your psyche, whatever that is, and you have this fantasy where you're sort of hurling the mental thunderbolts as if your thoughts could strike people dead. It's usually people, places, and things, but it's people. But it can be places and things as well that you resent, that you get really upset with. Resentment style upset, where, again, the best way I can describe it is, you imagine in your own mind that your thoughts can just strike those things out of, strike those things dead, as if you were God. Well, the problem, that's not a defense. People think resentment is a defense. Getting upset is a defense. It's not. It's exactly the opposite. Getting upset, resenting, opens you up to the world, invites the world in. You begin absorbing the environment around you. The environment around you begins to program you. And it doesn't matter whether whether you like it or not. All who sin are slaves, with resentment being the sin. I can get close to, I can use my words to describe what resentment is. You have to understand it for yourself. It's worth thinking about. What is it? What am I talking about? I'll use words, like upset, sort of synonymously with resentment. I'll use it, but it sort of helps it, helps you, can kind of help you understand what resentment is. But resentment is really its own little thing. And I'm not even sure that it's an emotion. But that's the point of failure. That's where you invite the world to come in. And so if you can understand that, it's possible to stop doing it. I haven't given this example for a long time, and so I'm going to go ahead and do it. I feel kind of prompted to do it. So imagine, to help you understand what resentment is. Imagine that I say, we're going to do an experiment, and you say you agree with me that we're going to do this experiment. So the idea is, and you can kind of do this as a thought experiment. It's a bit of a thought experiment. Imagine that I say, I'm going to slap you. I'm going to tell you this is part of the experiment. You've agreed to it. I'm going to slap your face. And so I slap your face, and you feel the pain of it. But you knew it was coming. You knew it was part of an experiment. You agreed to it. So you feel the pain of the slap. But you know, that's the first part of the experiment. Now imagine that you're just there, and there is and someone just walks up and slaps you in the face out of the blue. Okay, now that's a different story, because you feel the pain of it, but then there's something else that accompanies that. Imagine that someone you're not expecting it, and then all of a sudden here it comes. What the hell is that? So whatever, you have the physical pain of it, but then that whatever that is, that reaction that you have, resentment is in there. So that's the difference, and that's one way of understanding, to begin to understand what resentment is. So what you have to do is realize that in this existence, there will be things that come along that, is people, places, and things. Usually, mostly people, but it's places and things as well, come along to get you, to resent, to get you upset. Resentment style upset. And if you can really realize that those things are coming, that knowledge of that modifies it. It's coming. So therefore, when it comes, maybe you feel the pain of it, whatever it is, but you don't have that upset reaction. It's sort of hidden in your own mind. You don't have that reaction. So that, modifying knowledge, if you know it's coming, then you don't have that reaction. And if you can ever get to the point where you can go through your entire, day after day after day, your entire existence, without having that resentment reaction, it's a different world. Then you really can be in the world and interact with the world, successfully function in the world, but not be of it. You're not absorbing it. You're not absorbing the insanity. And the insanity really is insane, in case you didn't notice that. The purpose of it is to kill you. That really is the purpose. That is evil's ultimate purpose, is to kill you. But if you can really learn what resentment is, understand what it is, and learn not to do it, not to engage in it, it's like being in almost another dimension. You can think of it that way, sort of living in a different dimension. Even though it's the same world, same people, etc., etc. But it's being in a different, completely different dimension, where you can see these things going on, but And as I say, it becomes possible to interact with people, but not have to absorb the toxicity. Because resentment does that is the thing that opens you up to absorbing the insanity, absorbing the toxicity, and absorbing the toxic environment. Mention it once in a while. Go to my website, truckertompodcast.com. Up at the top, there's a link that says meditation. Click on that link. And I've got about 3 or 4 files, MP3 files, hosted on the website. And those files will teach you a simple meditation technique. Be still and know. You know, there's a line in the Bible, be still and know that I am God. And this meditation technique is a very simple but incredibly effective way of being still and allowing your Creator, allowing God to catch up with you. Don't run away, you know, but it's all about learning how to the right way of being still, and just allow your conscience, allow your Creator to catch up with you. And if you find it, I can't promise it's going to help everybody, but if it does help you, then it's up to you to continue with it. You continue with it, and you know, at some point, an amazing thing happened to me, and it kind of snuck up on me. You know, and it's I've talked about it before. A few years, it's been a number of years ago. I suddenly realized that, you know, my anxiety, whatever anxiety that I had about what was going on, you know, in the world, was gone. Simply gone. And it's rather amazing. You know, the words really don't describe it very well. You know, there's another line in the Bible that talks about peace that passes all understanding. That's about as close as I can come. So there is such a thing. I have it. And I didn't give it to myself. It's not something that I achieved. I suddenly realized one day that it was there. And, you know, where did that come from? When did that happen? But I know beyond any shadow of a doubt, it's not that I simply believe in God, but I know there's a God. I know there's a Creator. And there's really a profound difference between the two things. Now, do I know everything? No. Not at all. But I know there is a God, and you know he's got his. God has his purposes, whatever those purposes are. And I can trust in that. And I find that I'm actually able to. that doesn't make me perfect. It doesn't make the world perfect. But what is perfect is the peace that I have. It's really profound. It's really a profound thing to have. It's worth pursuing. But you're not, it's not something that you're just going to probably, casually, flippantly get. Or, it's probably not going to happen that way. You're probably not going to find God in a really casual way. Especially if you're seeking, thinking, well, it's going to be an advantage to find God. You've really got to want to find your Creator. You've got to, really have the drive to do that, and the drive to do that really is a mystery. Why do some people have it and other people don't seem to have it? But anyway, that's on my website, the meditation exercise. Give it a try. As I say, if you do find that it helps you, and it probably will, it's up to you to continue with it. Practice it daily, at least once a day. But it really is as simple as just being still. Learn how to be, proper way of being still and allowing your Creator to catch up with you. We do have a thing. There is this thing called free will, and free will, of course, is an interesting topic. Interesting thing to think about, but the one place where we do have free will, we're not forced. If you imagine that you're God and you've created the universe and you've made everything perfect, and you want and you want to create these human beings, you want to create these creatures that can choose to love you. You have to give them a choice. You have to provide them with a choice. Because if you don't, you just make a wind-up doll, that you pull the string and it says, I love you, I love you, I love you. What good is that? Because you've made this robot that simply says, I love you. What use is that? What good would that be? Yeah, imagine you're in your workshop. And you've built this little, this like a little doll that's able to talk. And you pull the string and it's, I love you, I love you, I love you. wouldn't it be much better if you could build your robot so that the robot could have its own mind? And it wouldn't be forced to love you, but that it could choose. It would have a choice instead, and of course. So that's why human beings, we've been given a choice. It's really an amazing gift that we've been given, this existence. It's just an incredible thing. So anyway, I've got a file here from Joel. It's a little over 2 minutes long, so here is Joel.
Hey Tom, it's Joel McLaughlin here. Just thought I'd give you a yell. I'm cooking a little dinner here right now at the house, but I got a half day tomorrow, and then I've got Wednesday and Thursday off because unfortunately Friday my Aunt Donna passed away. I don't know how. I know she's had some health issues in the last year or so it wasn't totally unexpected. But not expected either. So, but just kind of keeping on. I'm going by myself. Family's gonna stay here, but it's 5.5 hour drive down. I got room for a couple nights, and then 5.5 hour drive back. So I'll have 1 day off, or 1 day of work left this week, and then that'll be it. So, okay. Well, other things here. I did get my booster shot just because I could. Like I said, I don't care if you get it or not. I'm not for the mandate, but I am for personal decisions, and that's what this was. So, mostly. Now, no one's ever said in the company that it's a requirement yet. I don't think it's going to be, but in case it is, I'm fully good with that. But hopefully here soon not too much longer, we'll have an election here and hopefully get rid of some of the crazies. But we'll see. I don't think we're gonna truly get rid of a lot of people until the midterms here in next November in a year. So, all right, stay safe and keep on traveling, dude.
Okay, well, thank you, Joel. So, yeah, sometimes people die. I guess we all do. Sooner or later, we're all going to die. And that's just seems to be part of existence, and so I don't know. You just never know. It's just one of those things that happens, and and you just generally, we don't know when, like personally, we don't know when our existence is going to come to an end, and it really, it happens. I've often, I kind of think that, the friend that I had in Lincoln, Nebraska, he was 56, and, that was back in, actually early April. I called and, because I hadn't heard from him on Voxer, and so I called, I knew his, the apartment, so I looked up the apartment's phone number. called them, and they checked on him the next day, and they found him, his body in the apartment. And so it had been there, it had really started stinking, apparently. So he had been dead for some time, probably, maybe a week or more, don't know. So that's, and there's been other people that, friends that I've had that have just, and relatives, that they die. And so it does happen, and, it's just one of those things that we, that seems to be part of this existence. And we kind of have to be, it's sort of like I was talking about before, we have to sort of be prepared for these things. And of course, when it comes to friends and relatives that die, particularly relatives, particularly close relatives, it's a good idea to don't leave any unfinished business. Take care of don't ever allow there to be any unfinished business, because we don't know when our own end is, or when other people's end is. We just don't know. So therefore, don't leave any unfinished business. That's what gets people into trouble. That's what causes a lot of the bad behavior at funerals. Some really bad behavior often comes out when someone, family member dies. So take care, at least your part, take care of any unfinished business. Don't allow there to be any business that's unfinished in dealings with, particularly with relatives, but friends too. But particularly with close relatives. Don't allow any unfinished business to any business to remain unfinished. And usually unfinished business revolves around resentment, as I was talking about earlier. That's usually where the unfinished business kind of ends up, that's where it ends up sort of centering around. So, anyway, think I want to go ahead and bring this to a close, get this uploaded, and then, like I say, I'll probably leave here maybe around 11 or so, 11 p.m. I'll leave here and start heading towards Bentonville, Arkansas. And it should take about, it should be about a 6-hour trip, or probably a little more. It depends on, I probably won't stop because I've already eaten. So I may end up getting there around 5 or 6, and then head on home after I do the drop and hook. Then head on home and be home probably sometime. Let's say by mid-morning, maybe I should be home, if not a little bit earlier. So anyhow, hope everyone is having a great week, and I will catch you later. Remember, Trucker Tom is like Visa. He's everywhere you want to be.
Product reviews, restaurant reviews, photos, opinions, and more. Visit Trucker Tom's website at www.truckerphoto.com. You've been listening to Trucker Tom's podcast, and we'd love to hear what you have to say. All you have to do is send us an email to tom@truckerphoto.com.